Part 8 of The Matchless Orinda. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Elizabeth Klett. Poems by the most deservedly admired Mrs. Katherine Phillips, The Matchless Orinda. Part 8. Poems 71 to 80. 71. 2 Corinthians, verse 19. God was in Christ reconciling the world to himself. When God, contracted to humanity, could sigh and suffer, could be sick and die, when all the heap of miracles combined to form the greatest, which was save mankind, then God took stand in Christ, studying a way how to repair the ruined world's decay. His love, power, wisdom, must some means procure His mercy to advance, justice secure. And since man in such misery was hurled, it cost Him more to save than make the world. Oh, what a desperate load of sins had we, when God must plot for our felicity, when God must beg us that He may forgive, and die Himself before mankind could live. And what still are we, when our King in vain begs His lost rebels to be friends again? What floods of love proceed from heaven's smile, at once to pardon and to reconcile? What God Himself hath made He cannot hate, for 'tis one act to love and to create. And He's too perfect full of majesty to need additions from our misery. He hath a Father's, not a tyrant's joy, shows more His power to save than to destroy. Did there 10,000 worlds to ruin fall, one God could save, one Christ redeem them all. Be silent then, ye narrow souls, take heed lest you restrain the mercy you will need. But O my soul, from these be different, imitate thou a nobler precedent. As God with open arms the world does woo, learn thou like God to be enlarged too. As He begs thy consent to pardon thee, learn to submit unto thy enemy. As He stands ready thee to entertain, be thou as forward to return again. As He was crucified for and by thee, crucify thou what caused His agony. And like to Him be mortified to sin, die to the world, as He died for it then. 72. The World. We falsely think it due unto our friends, that we should grieve for their untimely ends. He that surveys the world with serious eyes, and strips her from her gross and weak disguise, shall find 'tis injury to mourn their fate. He only dies untimely, who dies late. For if 'twere told to children in the womb, to what a stage of mischiefs they must come, could they foresee with how much toil and sweat men count that gilded nothing, being great, what pains they take not to be what they seem, rating their bliss by others' false esteem, and sacrificing their content, to be guilty of grave and serious vanity, how each condition hath its proper thorns, and what one man admits another scorns, how frequently their happiness they miss, so far even from agreeing what it is, that the same person we can hardly find, who is an hour together in one mind. Sure they would beg a period of their breath, and what we call their birth would count their death. Mankind is mad, for none can live alone, because their joys stand by comparison, and yet they quarrel at society, and strive to kill they know not whom nor why. We all live by mistake, delight in dreams, lost to ourselves and dwelling in extremes, rejecting what we have, though ne'er so good, and prizing what we never understood. Compared to our boisterous inconstancy, tempests are calm, and discords harmony. Hence we reverse the world, and yet do find the God that made can hardly please our mind. We live by chance, and slip into events, have all of beasts except their innocence. The soul which no man's power can reach, a thing that makes each woman man, each man a king, doth so much lose, and from its height so fall, that some contend to have no soul at all. 'Tis either not observed, or at the best by passion fought withal, by sin depressed. Freedom of will, God's image, is forgot, and if we know it, we improve it not. Our thoughts, though nothing can be more our own, are still unguided, very seldom known. Time scapes our hands as water in a sieve, we come to die ere we begin to live. Truth, the most suitable and noble prize, food of our spirits, yet neglected lies. Error and shadows are our choice, and we owe our perdition to our own decree. If we search truth, we make it more obscure, and when it shines cannot the light endure. For most men now, who plod, and eat, and drink, have nothing less their business than to think, and those few that enquire, how small a share of truth they find, how dark their notions are. That serious evenness that calms the breast, and in a tempest can bestow a rest, we either not attempt, or else decline, by every trifle snatched from our design. Others he must in his deceits involve, who is not true unto his own resolve. We govern not ourselves, but lose the reins, counting our bondage to 1,000 chains. And with as many slaveries content, as there are many tyrants ready to torment, we live upon a rack extended still, to one extreme or both, but always ill. For since our fortune is not understood, we suffer less from bad than from the good. The sting is better dressed and longer lasts, as surfeits are more dangerous than fasts. And to complete the misery to us, we see extremes are still contiguous. And as we run so fast from what we hate, like squibs on ropes to know no middle state, so outward forms strengthened by us, we find our fortune as disordered as our mind. But that's excused by this, it doth its part, a treacherous world befits a treacherous heart. All ills our own, the outward storms we loathe receive from us their birth, their sting, or both. And that our vanity be past a doubt, 'tis one new vanity to find it out. Happy are they to whom God gives a grave, and from themselves as from his wrath doth save. 'Tis good not to be born, but if we must, the next good is, soon to return to dust, when the uncaged soul fled to eternity shall rest and live and sing and love and see. Here we but crawl and grovel, play and cry, are first our own, then others' enemy. But there shall be defaced both stain and score, for time and death and sin shall be no more. 73. The Soul. How vain a thing is man, whose noblest part, that soul which through the world doth roam, traverses heaven, finds out the depth of art, yet is so ignorant at home. In every brook or mirror we can find reflections of our face to be, but a true optic to present our mind we hardly get, and darkly see. Yet in the search after ourselves we run, actions and causes we survey, and when the weary chase is almost done, then from our quest we slip away. 'Tis strange and sad, that since we do believe we have a soul must never die, there are so few that can a reason give how it obtains that life, or why. I wonder not to find those that know most profess so much their ignorance, since in their own souls greatest wits are lost, and of themselves have scarce a glance. But somewhat sure doth here obscurely lie, that above dross would fain advance, and pants and catches at eternity, as 'twere its own inheritance. A soul self-moved which can dilate, contract, pierces and judges things unseen, but this gross heap of matter cannot act, unless impulsed from within. Distance and quantity to bodies due, the state of souls cannot admit, and all the contraries with nature new, meet there, nor hurt themselves, nor it. God never body made so bright and clean, which good and evil could discern. What these words honesty and honour mean, the soul alone knows how to learn. And though 'tis true she is imprisoned here, yet hath she notions of her own, which sense doth only jog, awake and clear, but cannot at the first make known. The soul her own felicity hath laid, and independent on the sense, sees the weak terrors which the world invade, with pity or with negligence. So unconcerned she lives, so much above the rubbish of a sordid jail, that nothing doth her energy improve so much as when those structures fail. She's then a substance subtle, strong and pure, so immaterial and refined as speaks her from the body's fate secure, and wholly of a different kind. Religion for reward in vain would look, virtue were doomed to misery, all actions were like bubbles in a brook, were't not for immortality. But as that conqueror who millions spent thought it too mean to give a mite, so the world's judge can never be content to bestow less than infinite. Treason against eternal majesty must have eternal justice too, and since unbounded love did satisfy, he will unbounded mercy show. It is our narrow thoughts shorten these things, by their companion flesh inclined, which feeling is its own weakness gladly brings, the same opinion to the mind. We stifle our own sun, and live in shade, but where its beams do once appear, they make that person of himself afraid, and to his own acts most severe. For ways to sin close, and our breast disguise From outward search, we soon may find. But who can his own soul bribe or surprise, Or sin without a sting behind? He that commands himself is more a prince Than he who nations keep in awe. Who yield to all that does their soul convince, Shall never need another law. 74. Happiness. Nature courts happiness, although it be unknown as the Athenian deity. It dwells not in man's sense, yet he supplies that want by growing fond of its disguise. The false appearances of joy deceive, and seeking her unto her like we cleave. For sinking man hath scarce sense left to know whether the plank he grasps will hold or no. While all the business of the world is this, to seek that good which by mistake they miss. And all the several passions men express are but for pleasure in a different dress. They hope for happiness in being great, or rich, or loved, then hug their own conceit. But the good man can find this treasure out, for which in vain others do dig and doubt. And hath such secret full content within, though all abroad be storms, yet he can sing. His peace is made, all's quiet in that place, Where nature's cured and exercised by grace. This inward calm prevents his enemies, for he can neither envy nor despise, but in the beauty of his ordered mind doth still a new rich satisfaction find. Innocent epicure, whose single breast can furnish him with a continual feast, a prince at home and sceptres can refuse, valuing only what he cannot lose. He studies to do good, a man may be harmless for want of opportunity, but he's industrious kindness to dispense, and therein only covets eminence. Others do court applause and fame, but he thinks all that giddy noise but vanity. He takes no pains to be observed or seen, while all his acts are echoed from within. He's still himself when company are gone, too well employed ever to be alone. For studying God in all his volumes, he begins the business of eternity, and unconcerned without retains the power to suck like bees a sweet from every flower. And as the manna of the Israelites had several tastes to please all appetites, so his contentment is that catholic food that makes all states seem fit as well as good. He dares not wish nor his own fate propound, but if God sends, reads love in every wound. And would not lose for all the joys of sense the glorious pleasures of obedience. His better part can neither change nor lose, and all God's will can bear, can do, can choose. 75. Death. How weak a star doth rule mankind, which owes its ruin to the same causes which nature had designed to cherish and preserve the frame. As commonwealths may be secure, and no remote invasion dread, yet may a sadder fall endure from traitors in their bosom bred. So while we feel no violence, and on our active health do trust, a secret hand doth snatch us hence, and tumbles us into the dust. Yet carelessly we run our race, as if we could death's summons wave, and think not on the narrow space between a table and a grave. But since we cannot death reprieve, our souls and fame we ought to mind, for they our bodies will survive, that goes beyond, this stays behind. If I be sure my soul is safe, and that my actions will provide my tomb a nobler epitaph, than that I only lived and died. So that in various accidents I conscience may and honour keep, I with that ease and innocence shall die, as infants go to sleep. 76. To the Queen's Majesty, on her late sickness and recovery. The public gladness that's to us restored, for your escape from what we so deplored, will want as well resemblance as belief, unless our joy be measured by our grief. When in your fever we with terror saw at once our hopes and happiness withdraw, and every crisis did with jealous fear enquire the news we scarce durst stay to hear. Some dying princes have their servants slain, that after death they might not want a train. Such cruelty were here a needless sin, for had our fatal fears prophetic been, sorrow alone that service would have done, and you by nations had been waited on. Your danger was in every visage seen, and only yours was quiet and serene. But all our zealous grief had been in vain, had not great Charles's called you back again. Who did your sufferings with such pain discern, he lost 3 kingdoms once with less concern. Labouring your safety he neglected his, nor feared he death in any shape but this. His genius did the bold distemper tame, and his rich tears quenched the rebellious flame. As once the Thracian hero loved and grieved, till he his lost felicity retrieved, and with the moving accents of his woe, his spouse recovered from the shades below. So the king's grief your threatened loss withstood, who mourned with the same fortune than he wooed. And to his happy passion we have been now twice obliged for so adored a queen. But how severe a choice had you to make, when you must heaven delay or him forsake? Yet since those joys you made such haste to find had scarce been full if he were left behind. How well did fate decide your inward strife by making him a present of your life, which rescued blessing he must long enjoy, since our offences could it not destroy. For none but death durst rival him in you, and death himself was baffled in it too. 77. Upon Mr. Abraham Cowley's retirement. Ode. No, no, unfaithful world, thou hast too long my easy heart betrayed, and me too long thy football made. But I am wiser grown at last, and will improve by all that I have passed. I know 'twas just I should be practised on, for I was told before, and told in sober and instructive lore, how little all that trusted thee have won, and yet I would make haste to be undone. Now by my suffering I am better taught, and shall no more commit that stupid fault. Go, get some other fool, whom thou mayst next cajole. On me thy frowns thou dost in vain bestow, for I know how to be as coy and as reserved as thou. In my remote and humble seat, now I'm again possessed of that late fugitive, my breast. From all thy tumults and from all thy heat, I'll find a quiet and a cool retreat, and on the fetters I have worn look with experienced and revengeful scorn, in this my sovereign privacy. 'Tis true I cannot govern thee, but yet myself I may subdue, and that's the nobler empire of the two. If every passion had got leave its satisfaction to receive, yet I would it a higher pleasure call, to conquer one than to indulge them all. For thy inconstant sea, no more I'll leave that safe and solid shore. No, though to prosper in the cheat, thou shouldst my destiny defeat, and make me be beloved or rich or great, nor from myself shouldst me reclaim, with all the noise and all the pomp of fame. Judiciously I'll thee despise, too small the bargain, and too great the price, for them to cozen twice. At length this secret I have learned, who will be happy must be unconcerned. Must all their comfort in their bosom wear, and seek their treasure and their power there. No other wealth will I aspire, but that of nature to admire, nor envy on a laurel will bestow, whilst I have any in my garden grow. And when I would be great, 'tis but ascending to a seat which nature in a lofty rock hath built, a throne as free from trouble as from guilt. Where when my soul her wings does raise above what worldlings fear or praise, with innocence and quiet pride I'll sit, and see the humble waves pay tribute to my feet. O life divine, when free from joys diseased, not always merry, but 'tis always pleased. A heart, which is too great a thing to be a present for a Persian king, which God himself would have to be his court, where angels would officiously resort, from its own height should much decline, if this converse it should resign, ill-natured world, for thine. Thy unwise rigour hath thy empire lost, it hath not only set me free, but it hath made me see, they only can of thy possession boast, who do enjoy thee least, and understand thee most. For lo, the man whom all mankind admired, by every grace adorned, and every muse inspired, is now triumphantly retired. The mighty Cowley this hath done, and over thee a Parthian conquest won, which future ages shall adore, and which in this subdues thee more, than either Greek or Roman ever could before. 78. The Irish Greyhound. Behold this creature's form and state, which nature therefore did create, that to the world might be expressed what mean there can be in a beast, and that we in this shape may find a lion of another kind. For this heroic beast does seem in majesty to rival him, and yet vouchsafes to man to show both service and submission too. From whence we this distinction have, that beast is fierce, but this is brave. This dog hath so himself subdued, that hunger cannot make him rude, and his behaviour does confess true courage dwells with gentleness. With sternest wolves he dares engage, and acts on them successful rage. Yet too much courtesy may chance to put him out of countenance. When in his opposer's blood Fortune hath made his virtue good, this creature from an act so brave grows not more sullen, but more grave. Man's guard he would be, not his sport, believing he hath ventured for't, but yet no blood or shed or spent can ever make him insolent. Few men of him to do great things have learned, and when they are done, to be so unconcerned. 79. Song. To the tune of Some n'eût pas trop heureux. How prodigious is my fate, since I can't determine clearly whether you'll do more severely, giving me your love or hate. For if you with kindness bless me, since from you I soon must part, Fortune will so dispossess me, that your love will break my heart. But since death all sorrow cures, might I choose my way of dying, I could wish the arrow flying from Fortune's quiver, not from yours. For in the sad unusual story, how my wretched heart was torn, it will more concern your glory, I by absence fell than scorn. 80. A dialogue betwixt Lucasia and Rosania, imitating that of gentle Thyrsis. Rosania. My Lucasia, leave the mountain tops, and like a nearer air. Lucasia. How shall I then forsake my lovely flocks, bequeathed to my care? Rosania. Shepherdess, thy flocks will not be less, although thou shouldst come hither. Lucasia. But I fear the world will be severe, should I leave them to go thither. Rosania. O my friend, if you on that depend, you'll never know content. Lucasia. Rather I near thee would live and die, would Fortune but consent. Rosania. But did you ask leave to love me too, that others should deprive me? Lucasia. Not all mankind a stratagem can find, which from that heart should drive me. Rosania. Better 't had been I thee had never seen, than that content to lose. Lucasia. Such are thy charms, I'd dwell within thine arms, could I my station choose. Rosania. When life is done, the world to us is gone, and all our cares do end. Lucasia. Nay, I know there's nothing sweet below, unless it be a friend. Rosania. Then whilst we live, this joy let's take and give, since death us soon will sever. Lucasia. But I trust, when crumbled into dust, we shall meet and love for ever. End of Part 8.